And that is sort of the balance that has to be struck with this. Like, we need law. We need it. We need to be governed communally and not each person acting on their own individual drives and needs. And we need a way to enforce law. That's true. But as much as that is true, in the same measure, we need to be wary of it because it poses as a benefit and as your friend. I will help it be better, but it is not always that way. And it doesn't always make it better. And often it makes it worse. But there is actually an economic debate to be had in the middle there. This is just pure tribalism. My guy can stomp all over your freedoms. I'm cool with that. And people will even say that. Like, you'll have this conversation with someone, who you thought was actual liberal, and they will say shit that is just like unbelievably not progressive, but regressive. I'm like, are you kidding me? Every seizure of liberty has begun under the premise of benefit to you. This is for your good. It is the people who will seize your freedom for your own good who will never cease to seize it.
What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! The reason why also that we're in this discussion today is very easy to immediately, when we talk about the law and bullshit and mythology, go to gun control and go to the policy-making addiction and religion of our communal brothers and sisters. The other mythology that doesn't really get very much coverage, which I'm also covering in the work that I'm doing, is that the legal system itself and the people involved in the legal system, well, first and foremost, the legal system is involved in a mythology. And part of that mythology is that it is purely rational and it is being run by highly rational humans who are dedicated scientifically to this discernment and this rationale, and it's not irrational, and it's highly tied to principle and cold and stoic dedication to rationality and these principles and precedent and system and pattern. Well, that's part of the fucking mythology. It's not stated like that, it's entirely bullshit, right? Are those elements involved? Are there players involved like that? Do we try to do that in the legal system? I think we attempt it. I think we try to do well. But from the lowly court clerk to the lawyer, to the judge, prosecutor, to the defender, all the way up to the Supreme Court, there is so much human bullshit, irrationality, crazy make-em-ups. And so this is the other thing that we need to knock down, because Hillel and I are actually interested in actually stopping gun-related negatives where and when we are fucking actually interested in it. So what are the mechanisms? Like, okay, the mythology is the glue. It holds everything together. If we didn't have the rule of law, we'd be in deep shit. But at the same time, there's crazy make-em-ups happening in the courtroom, in the judge's head, in the lawyer's head, in the politician's head, the policymaker, the academic, right? And that baseline mythology, that baseline glue is the law. And this is where I'm going to start doing this here, because this is kind of the main point of the legal pillar that I'm writing, which is the mythology is that law works. That's its mythology. Does the law work? Sometimes it's context dependent, right. But the mythology is that the defining feature of law, and I would say this also for religion too, the defining feature of law is that it works. That's the mythology. When the defining feature of the law is it doesn't work. It doesn't have any bearing whatsoever on the vast majority of human behaviors on a day-to-day basis. Not 99.8% of all of our behaviors, the law, religious law or secular law, is irrelevant. It is what I call Lex Nugatorious. It is nothing. It's a big zilcho, zippo, fucking zero. But The glutenizing force in a system of the rule of law is the opposite. What holds us together is this shit's going to work. Now, I'll say one more thing and I'll let you go. What I find interesting in that is that, but when it suits people, people also don't believe in that. They also believe that the law is horseshit and it doesn't do anything. But the prime, deep subconscious reality is that we are buying into this thing. And the Democrats are the world's greatest purveyors of this myth, is that the law works. And that's the defining feature of it. The defining feature of law and policy, I argue, is they don't work. They do nothing. They're shit, right? And if we want to make better laws and better policy, how about we start with what's real? The Chevy Chevette doesn't go up the mountain. Why don't we have a vehicle that goes up the fucking mountain instead of a religious mythology of the Chevy Chevette making it up the mountain, which is what the rule of law is in policy making in the West. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm so grooving on our conversation. We have an election days coming up tomorrow in Georgia. And one of the things that we're voting on is judges here in Georgia. And so we're seeing all these advertisements for judges. And one of the guys who's running is a conservative and who was appointed by Kemp, Governor Kemp, who's a Republican down here. The advertisement is basically like, he will apply the law as it is truly understood and written without any bias, right? That's his thing. Like, I stand for the law and I will uphold the law fairly. And, I won't be biased by partisan points of view. And then Brian Kemp comes on and he's like, we need a conservative judge in Georgia. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought the law was a thing that you could just read it and apply it correctly without bias. So why do we need a conservative person to do that? Like, you could have anybody, right? I mean, it should be easily understood. If it's that kind of thing, if the law is just so obvious, like, this is what it means, and there you go. So I agree. It is a myth to the point where even when they're advertising to you to like something that's contrary to the myth, they're telling you the myth. The law works. Like, if you just read it and you just apply it as it was written, then everything will be better. I think that is a myth. It doesn't work that way. And I thought of a couple of things, like, I could get away with breaking the law easily and often, right? It really wouldn't be that hard. And any number of laws that I could easily break, tomorrow. But I don't. Like, why not? And I don't mean, like, not really even out of fear of getting caught, like, but because I don't want to do that. Like, that's a much stronger motivation. Like, for example, if you legalized heroin tomorrow, it was totally legal, I still wouldn't do it. Like, I have no interest. I don't want to do that. And my conviction to not do it, for me personally, for my personal reasons, it's not good for you, it's addictive, et cetera, is way stronger than the law, because I could probably find it if I wanted to and get away with it. So the law isn't really keeping me from doing that. Just like, the law really is ineffective in that way. And there's many other things in society that can be more effective at governing how people behave, like that I learned a long time ago, don't do heroin. It's not worth it. It's not good for you. Like, there's a rational learning process that went into me understanding that. Like, don't break into someone's house in the middle of the night to steal their TV, right? The law doesn't stop people from doing that. That's why it still happens. And the law doesn't stop me from doing that. Like, there's a whole other set of things that stop me from doing that. And I think that myth that, like, the law works, and then the convenient opt-outs, like the one on the left, that's on the right, we say, on the gun side, we say, this won't stop the criminals. This will only stop the lawful people from owning guns. Like, criminals will get guns anyway. And you hear equally people saying on the left, like, you're not going to prevent abortions by outlawing them. You're just going to just going to drive them on. It won't stop it. People will still get them. And it's like there are laws that go against deep human drives, right? Like, we spoke about this way, way long ago when we spoke about religion and anti-gay sentiment. Like, if your religion says, you can't be gay, you're going to run up against a very deep drive that's in constant conflict with your religious point of view, which is the drive for a meaningful sex life, which every human being wants, más o menos, with rare exception. So If you want to make a law that pushes down something that is so naturally and organically a drive of human beings, it is not going to be effective generally. In the classic Jewish literature, there's a pair of teachings about government and laws. It's really interesting. They're like sort of right next to each other in the Mishnah. And one of them says you should pray for the welfare of the government, because without it, people will kill each other. We'll eat each other alive. You got to have some governance, or it will just be, the rule of might and who can bash you over the head. So we pray for the stability of our government. The other teaching is be wary of the authorities, because they're really only your friend when it serves them. And when it's in their interest, they appear on your side. But when it's not, they are not. And that is sort of the balance that has to be struck with this. Like, we need law. We need it. We need to be governed communally and not each person acting on their own individual drives and needs. And we need a way to enforce law. That's true. But as much as that is true, in the same measure, we need to be wary of it, because it poses as a benefit and as your friend. I will help it be better, but it is not always that way. And it doesn't always make it better. And often it makes it worse. And it's why in my own life, I guess I could have been a lawyer. And in some ways, rabbis are lawyers, and Jewish practice and life, we talk about it like it's law, but it's really not law as such. It's why I've opted for the path of teaching and of educating. Like, the better glue is wisdom and understanding. And that only comes from teachers who think thoughtfully about teaching. And so whether it's about guns, whether it's about human development and societal benefits, whether it's about public policy, whether it's about religion and keeping kosher and the Sabbath, whatever it is, my goal is always to teach, that I can enter a deeper part of the human psyche by teaching and by reaching in conversation and learning and understanding. And I can maybe sometimes even undermine that deep, monkey brain emotional think that convolutes our better selves and our more constructive spirituality and makes it fundamentalist.
So in that, you brought up something that Hunter Starr brought up previously: belief when it suits you. Like, laws work when that suits your view. Laws don't work when that suits your view. Having a totalizing system of government that's fucking involved in everything you do isn't cool when Donald Trump is in the White House. But when Barack Obama gets in the White House, here's a blank check and woohoo. And this is where liberalism, I think, is actual liberalism, is important, because I don't really consider what's happening now with what people like liberal progressivism. I'm not sure that, look, I mean, I'm progressive as shit, but the reality is the first job of liberalism is to look at that which is above you and question it. And in the humans, well, in the divine realm probably too, but in the human realm, in the secular realm, is there a more fundamental human story than the haves versus the have-nots and the abuse that comes from above you coming down? Liberalism is about that. And how does that go away because the Democrats are in charge? How does that go away because our own people are in charge, but it's only present in fascism and totalizing bullshit when the other side is in charge? A totalizing governmental system is a totalizing system.
It's like a blindness to your own reality, and that it's pure tribalism, right? It's not an overlay of tribalism on my ideas and on an argument about which policy is better. Which economic policy is better? Well, I got my tribal side and you got your tribal side. But there is actually an economic debate to be had in the middle there. This is just pure tribalism. My guy can stomp all over your freedoms. I'm cool with that. And people will even say that, like you'll have this conversation with someone, who you thought was actual liberal, and they will say shit that is just like unbelievably not progressive, but regressive. I'm like, are you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, no, I have no problem with that. Yeah, sure. Stomp on their rights, do something else, close-mindedness, right? Some equally other, deeply embedded fundamentalism. And I'm like, like, I think long-term history will judge the left wingers like that and the right wingers like that as very similar to each other, and that was the condition. They won't really distinguish so much, on which side of the zero line they were. If they were all the way up here or all the way down here, or, they will just say these guys were, their amplitude was crazy.
Yeah, I had a dude that I was considering for a subject matter expert spot for us for police misconduct shootings, because he's sort of involved in that world, and progressive guy. And I was really excited to find him, but then we were having a conversation on the phone, and he said, we were talking about mass shootings, and he was like, we've got all this technology, and we've got a camera. There's a camera in everybody's bedroom. There's a camera in there. He's like, we should be figuring out a way. We can stop these things. Like, those cameras are there. Like, they're already there. And I was like, holy shit. Like,
right. Hey, how about pre-crime? Let's just do pre-crime. Get you before you even commit the crime. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
We could stop it, right? I mean, that's the premise. Like, this is a crazy thing. Not realizing that they would be dragged away too. Like, you think that intrusion is only going to stop the guy who you don't, who you wanted to stop. And that, like, the government is going to be your friend. Like, that's what that teaching means, is like, be wary of them, because every seizure of liberty has begun under the premise of benefit to you. This is for your good. It is the people who will seize your freedom for your own good who will never cease to seize it. And they believe that so deeply, like, I tell this little story. Edwin Friedman, who was a rabbi psychotherapist, he wrote this book of fables in which he tells, like, some human truths in these short little fables. And one of them, he tells about a guy who wakes up and tells his wife, I'm dead. And she thinks he's joking. She, like, jokes, brushes off, but he continues to double down and say, I'm dead, I'm dead. So, she calls a psychiatrist. He comes in, he talks to the guy. He says, look, we're having a conversation. The guy says, I don't care. I'm dead. So she calls in the priest. Maybe it's like, something demonic or something. And the priest says, you can't say I'm dead. God gave us life, etc. The guy says, thank you, Father, but I'm dead. So finally she calls in a doctor. She thinks maybe the guy is having, some seizure. Maybe it's something biological. The doctor comes up with this plan. He says, listen, do dead men bleed? And the man says, no, everybody knows dead men don't bleed. So he takes out a little lancet and he pokes the guy in the finger. And sure enough, the guy bleeds. The guy looks at his finger. He looks at the doctor. He says, what do you know? Dead men do bleed. Like, he's so convinced himself of the reality of what he said that literally the evidence to the contrary cannot dissuade him. In fact, how about that, Doc? What do you know? Dead men do bleed. And I find myself quoting that line like every other day, where I see this in the world around us, where people double down on things when it is so clearly shown to them that it's not correct. It doesn't matter.
It's confidence before facts is the way that the base state of the brain is confidence before facts, right. Seemingly. And we're learning that. Yeah. And I think we're finding that through the injection of the digital realm, boy, is that a problem. And it could be even more of a problem with what's coming next with artificial intelligence, and so on. It could be. I do feel like we're in a major paradigm shift zone right now. And I see all institutions being stretched, like the mythologies being stretched. You stretch the taffy, and let me bring that back there. You stretch the taffy, and then you see the holes popping up in the side of the taffy, right? Or the silly putty. You pull the silly putty, and you see the holes start. That's what I see with all of our institutions. Like, there's a new thing that is among us, and our institutions were sort of, well, every institution is kind of outmatched at some point. It starts to become outmatched, and then the ones that make it are able to like adjust and become more realistic, perhaps, and move into the future. The ones that can't, they go away, or they just become some regressive, fundamentalist, crazy offshoot bullshit. But I certainly see that the silly putty's being stretched, and the mythology is being stretched, and the holes are showing up. It's pretty obvious to me. So that's just something that I wanted to note there. The one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, Hillel, I didn't want to hold you forever, but we did cover like behavior and kind of everything that I wanted to cover. I wanted to talk about Sky Dad. So all of our institutions in the West have a Sky Dad element. It doesn't, as religion, government, financial based institutions, education, medicine, the law, all have some kind of Sky Dad. And even radical, I would argue this, even radical feminist social justice warriors have a Sky Dad thing going on, but they just kind of define it differently. But it is some overarching preternatural or supernatural apex power that they're underneath, and they need that to deliver things to them, for them, or the institution is in the business of being the conduit for that delivery of the thing that people want, whether it's certainty or comfort or riches or whatever. But everybody in the West and our institutions have some kind of fucking Sky Dad going on. It seems to be, again, principle to our makeup in some way. And the people that are like white male patriarchy, good point, white male patriarchy people, really good point. It's true, partially true. Maybe not the way they handle it is always great, but it's true. So, but
partially true,
and likely a glue that we could not have gone without early on. Do we need Sky Dad anymore? I'm saying we probably don't. We need something else. But yet, Sky Dad is baked into every single institution we have. Even the people that are intellectuals and the lawyers that are like, no, this is the stoic rational bullshit. The universities, the colleges, the courts, they all have Sky Dad baked into them. Even social justice warrior outfits have Sky Dad baked into them. So what the fuck is going on with Sky Dad, Hillel? Like, from a religious viewpoint, what the fuck? Like, okay, I'm open to divinity. I've always been open. I'm open to it. Yeah.
It's just the phrasing, like usually people ask a question. Look, without trying to give like a really broad, theological background kind of thing, like, I just want to say, a couple things are really true. One is, I do think even in the world of religion, there is a paradigm shift and a ground shift happening. Certainly that's true in Jewish religion. And there are a number of Jewish thinkers who really have framed it in a way of like, there's a couple of major eras of Jewish history, and we are currently living in the emerging third era of Jewish history, and we're in it. Not like it just happened and we're new, but like this is the transformative period, and we don't know where it's going. And what will the Jewish community of 1,000 years from now look like? I think I would say it will be unrecognizable to us, in the same way that our Judaism is practically unrecognizable to our biblical ancestors. They didn't live like we live. So I'm always cautious about predicting or making big statements about the state of the state, because I really do feel like we are in the middle of a unstable time of transformation. And it's one of those times where you got to kind of ride the wave. There's trends and mega trends that are far beyond what me and my denomination can do to shape the nature of the world around us. And I think it's going to also change the way people talk about God. It's going to change and shift our understanding. I think artificial intelligence is going to shift the metaphors with which we speak about and which we understand. And let's just remind ourselves that all God language is metaphoric language. None of it actually describes what we're talking about. I think for me, I don't need supernatural God, right? I think as a modern, there's already a century of Jewish thought to go beyond a supernatural understanding. Like, we have literally stood on another planet and looked down on this one. So let's not pretend like there's a sky God up there, right? We've been on the moon. Like, so God isn't up on the moon. And while all that was there's truth in all metaphor in that way. Like, there will be new metaphors and new ways of describing God, and God is like at the top of the list of those words that mean something different to everybody who says it. So you say, like, Hillel, do you believe in God? And my answer is no, I don't believe in God, because belief is not how I think about it. Well, do you think there is God? I'm like, yeah, I do. My experience is that there is transcendent consciousness beyond my own, that I understand about this much of the truth of the world around me. That and in my own thinking, I have let go of old man in the sky. God is a character in the Bible. Like, the God of the Bible is a way of beginning to think about God. It is not an actual description of God. And I mean, I just don't think that way. It's much less definable. It's less of a personality and a character, and it's more of the pervasive, life of the universe, the power and force which holds everything together and gives it purpose, meaning, and direction. It's the weight behind everything. So when I talk about God, that's the kind of God I'm talking about. When I talk about God of the biblical stories, I'm talking in the metaphoric language of story. When you can personify God in order to teach something about human behavior, human existence, some deeper truth about us, right? It's myth, in other words. It's the finger that points at the moon, not the moon itself. And so, but I've watched people breathe their last breath, and I've watched people breathe their first breath. And that's pretty freaking amazing. There is meaning and divinity and purpose far beyond our scope of understanding. I don't think we come from nowhere, and I don't think we're going to nowhere.
Do you think so? Sky Dad.
Wait, let me say one other thing.
Right? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, in terms of like institution, for me, God is very personal. even though it's transcendent beyond like my own limited thinking and scope of my own consciousness, which I have to confess is both amazing and totally frail and, insignificant at the same time. I think God gets used a lot, and people speak for God. Clergy do this all the time. It is our currency. We're supposed to do that, right? Like I will say, God wants us to do this, right? Even though if you ask me, like, well, how do you know? I would have to confess, like, that's just my way of speaking about it. And please don't take it seriously that, like, I think I have some conduit to know God's truth in a way that other people do not have. Like, I just don't think that's true. And I think the more sky daddy you get, an old man with a beard in the sky, you get in your thinking about God, the worse it is. And all that stuff is totally fine when you're a child, right? Biblical stories and ways of personifying things are good when you're a child, because that's how it's the uses of enchantment, right? I mean, there's lots of people who understand how children learn to grow and understand the world around them. But then you also have to talk about the God who isn't that God and who cannot be contained within a specific religion's point of view. Like, it's absurd to me to say, like, God is the Jewish God and not the Hindu God. Like, if God is God, then God is, the total whole picture package for everybody and in every way, and in everybody's metaphoric truths are true in that way. I just reject the thinking of, a lot of religious people, I will admit, a lot of religious people think like, God thinks like me and my religion, and I'm always like, isn't it coincidental to you that, the God you believe in just coincidentally also believes in the religion you believe in? Like, isn't that a coincidence to you? And yet, here there are hundreds of other ways of people being. Like, again, that's where the inductive truth comes up against the deductive realities. Like my learned reality experience is that my metaphor for God is not the only one. It's one part of the truth. That's it. That's all it is. And if that's not enough for you, go follow some fundamentalist guru. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that has to be enough, because that is all we have is that partial piece of the truth. And honestly, for me, it's enough. I do not feel faithless or unconnected. I feel, being alive, breath is really the connector. It's the ultimate connector. God is breath. And so as long as we breathe, we experience, that ever presence of consciousness. And when we stop breathing, we let go. That's all.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
I hope at that moment when we no longer struggle to breathe, like you start life and you breathe and you share in this incredible consciousness through breath, the breath that has been shared by every living thing that ever lived on earth. And you can't even, stop breathing. Like, you'll struggle. You'll fight to keep breathing. And then at the end, there's a moment where you will breathe your last breath. And here's my faith, right? If I have faith in something, it's that in that moment, when we are able to actually let go and no longer struggle to breathe and to live, that there will be a measure of enlightenment. And that I will know something I didn't know before.
Yeah.
That's where I'm headed.
I hope so. I hope the same.
Me
so
too.
when we have Sky Dad translate into the secular world, but the secular intellectual world develops its version of Sky Dad, which is basically
right.
Leviathan, Hobbes' Leviathan, supremacy of the state, some paternalistic force, which is involved in
Right.
all of our institutions, right? So SkyDad is still in
Justice.
yes,
Right. Yeah. We want justice.
yeah. It's still we still have SkyDad, but in the secular realm, but it's like it's gone through the Plato fun factory squeeze and come out the other side, and so now we have the secular SkyDad, which is maybe ideas or the but it's essentially something tied to paternalism and a paternal force, because as we discussed earlier, we simply can't seem to make it unless we have somebody that's we think can deliver us or deliver a thing or get us what we need. As the scientific framework intensifies going forward, so we understand more and more, as the taffy or the silly putty stretches, because I see paternalism and SkyDad as a major fucking problem now. A major problem, especially if we go into the AI paradigm. Holy shit. But then AI becomes SkyDad. But can our institutions survive? Can we have institutions that aren't, it sounds weird, but aren't paternalistic or are less paternalistic or aren't as sky daddy? Because they're so deeply invested in state supremacy, paternalism, and that issue that may become a gigantic negative. Can these institutions evolve that? Do you think if for religion to survive, people had to become Hillel Norry and think like Hillel Norry, do these religious institutions actually make it? Can that happen? That's my question. It could be rhetorical. You can answer it or try to answer it if you want. But because what I see is, you said something, the literal depiction of God, Sky Daddy with beard, is good when you're a child. And that's what I'm saying about our institutions. It was good for us when we were a child. I mean, we look back at the 20th century and we would see, like, scientifically, I'll use the term retardation. Like, what in the hell? Right? We see people who seem like they were dumb and immature and lived on Pluto, like, relative to fact. So we look back at that, and to me, that the 20th century is me going, like, we were children. So I think the way that we have our institutions constructed was good for us when we were children socially. But I think it's pretty obvious that the needs of what's about to come is going to require that we not be children. So can our institutions grow up? Can they stop being so paternalistic? Can we let go of Sky Daddy? And probably we will switch it for Sky Netty. Like we will, that might be what we do, and we're hopeless or whatever. But what do you think about that? Can our institutions survive and make that transition?
Wow. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that go into trying to figure that out, and it's a little bit of crystal ball gazing. I will say that, like, there's so many factors, geopolitical, global factors, that are so beyond our individual and even our communal control that, that's scary to me. And I think there's always the possibility of things devolving and getting even more tribal than they are, even more siloed thinking, even less communication, even less critical thinking. Like, I think that is possible, that kind of intellectual de-evolution. So, there's no guarantee. But I also think, like, we are adaptable. That's one of the most amazing things about us, is we are adaptable. And we have adapted a lot of our social institutions to changing ideas and to new discoveries and to better ways of thinking. Like, that really is true. So I think we have to be careful not to have what is very popular, like sort of a gloom and doom attitude towards the future. Like I think that's got some intellectual cachet nowadays to say everything, everything is going to hell. But not everything is going to hell. A lot of things are getting better. And I do think the perennial question is, will we get to a point where we have what who is it Illich calls that convivial living, like where we can live peacefully with each other and be creative and do the good things of humankind, in a stable, non-planet destroying way before we kill each other. Like, can we get to that place? Or will we just trade one pharaoh for another pharaoh? Like, if that's all it is, if we're just trading, if God liberates you from Egypt so that you can then just, be slaves to some other god, some other place, that ain't liberation, right? Like, it's not adequate to say we just want a different pharaoh. Like, we want no pharaoh, or less of that. And I think we have to remind ourselves. I want to be a little bit optimistic, because I do think a lot of things are getting better. And I'll tell you a short, real quick story. So I had kidney stones twice. Terrible, terrible thing. And the surgeon who did the surgery to remove the kidney stones, because I needed surgery, I was talking to her and asking, what did they do before this new technology that allowed you to do it this way? And that, is really incredible technology that allows us to do this. She said, well, the truth is, you just would have suffered. And then you probably would have gotten a kidney infection. And if you'd have survived past the suffering and the infection, we'd have cut your whole side open, and you'd have had like a year-long recovery from an awful thing. And truth be told, if you'd have gotten what you had 100 years ago, you'd be dead. She's like, and it led to a whole conversation about how there are people, good people, really good people, working on every single problem there is. Like, there's people who are trying to make the better technology for kidney stones even better. And that's just one little problem that, the world is working vigilantly to make stuff better. People are researching, good, smart, dedicated. Hundreds of people are researching the cure to everything that ails us. So many things are better. I believe this is the hidden hand of God through history, right? Has brought us to this time of human consciousness, the great unfolding of the universe, and all of the decisions that have ever been made before have led to this one moment. And we're not children anymore. If anything, as human beings, we're at the precipice of adulthood. And the question is, will we survive our idiotic teenage years to become fruitful, creative, productive adults and explore the universe together? Or will we blow ourselves up, like a crazy, stupid teenager who runs out into the street? And again, it comes back to learning, wisdom, understanding, and education. It's why I doubled down on being a teacher, because it was good teachers who opened my mind up to a better way of thinking, who got me out of my own teenage, idiotic, stupid thinking years and allowed me to think more broadly, more creatively, more compassionately, more spiritually and religiously, more scientifically, and with less of a desire to claim some mythological capital T truth. That is just a dead end street. If we want to make it to our adulthood, if we want to evolve spiritually and have human consciousness bring us to a place where we can live together, really live together, I think we got to get rid of that.
But Hillel, in order to achieve all of that, we need a policy.
I got a policy for you right here, I tell you. No, 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 we don't. Maybe we need less
Policy
policy.
this, lady.
Right. Look, it really is policy this, lady. It's really paradigm shifting conversation. I'm part of a couple of groups of rabbis, and sometimes we talk like maybe we're at the place in Jewish history where the goal and the role of the rabbi is not to teach about Judaism. Like, what if that's the case? Like, what if there's a bigger message? What if, see, because again, all these myths, they have this kernel in them, and like, and all these policies. It's like, if you do this, then this will happen. Well, what if I can make that happen without saying that psalm or that prayer? What if I can evoke that emotional response without doing that ritual? And what if doing the ritual actually gets in the way of having what you're claiming is the purpose and the goal of that legislative, that ritual, right? Like, maybe what I'm teaching is not how to be more Jewish, but how to be more human. So that means less policy, less commandedness. Not for nobody. If you want that, like, again, to me, the value of that commandedness and the ritual life and the observance and all that is that it creates a community. It creates a civilization. You're creating something positive. But boy, if it does not do that, maybe it's time for a new religion.
It seems like, again, coming back to what we talked about in the very beginning, at some point, maybe you stop worshiping the glue. Maybe you stop just subjugating yourself to the powers of the glue, which are amazing and we kind of need them. But how about they're also problematic?
Yeah. And there is a liberation that comes from separating yourself from it. There really is, for sure. And that willingness to, because pretty soon all you start to see is the glue. That's all there is. And you don't have any of the benefit of, you stop realizing all the rest of what there is in the realm of human possibility if all you see is this one way of doing it, this one set of reaffirming your myth over and over and over again. It completely narrows our vision and collapses all possibilities. And honestly, there's nothing progressive about it.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you would like to add here? Anything you've been thinking about to end today?
No, I don't really think so. I think we covered so many different things and a really wide array of things.
Coincidentally, I'm always talking about to the developers, like the next 2 years are my Albert Einstein years. Like we're either gonna rip space-time fabric and come up with a new theory of relativity, or we're gonna fucking fail. Like that's what I see the nexus between guns and public safety. There's a huge opportunity here, but the window is short and need to get to it, right? And so I mentioned in text to Hillel before we started today about let's rip some space-time fabric. Hillel just held up his paper that he wrote all his notes in, and on the back side of it is a picture of Albert Einstein. Yes?
Yep.
So perhaps divinity is with us today with some synchronicity and all of his chicken scratches that look like Hebrew. But this is amazing, dude. This is exactly.
This is easy to read.
Yeah, this is what I expect when I talk to you. Is this like I said before? I get it. I'm friends with a world leading rabbi in terms of thinking, and I get free rabbi like when I want it. It's crazy. And every time we talk, I'm like, shit. Why are we not doing this? Like we should be doing this. Ripping the space-time fabric, man. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your mentorship and your input. I feel sane after I talk to you. So that emotional effect you're talking about as a teacher,
Oh, thank
you have it on me. Like you just talk and I feel I feel reset after I talk to you, and I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I'm good for a while. I'll need some Hillel in like 2 months, but I'm good. Right. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you. I feel the same way. There's so there are people I feel like I connect with, and then there are people I feel like I really connect with, and they really get me, and I really get them. And there's some deeper stuff. Like we're not just scratching the surface anymore. We're going deep, and I just really appreciate that about you and about the conversations we have. And I say, full steam ahead.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm going to need you, man. I'm going to need you. I think we're in the valley now, and we got to get out, and we're on the precipice of it, man, where I feel it. Like there's something unprecedented and good right there for us. But we need to, you're the rabbi on the spaceship. So I'm definitely going to need it.